is a retired high school history teacher. Spent a good part of his career down in the state of Arizona, where he got mixed up with the Forest Service.
Where in Arizona?
And became interested in the work of the Civilian Conservation Corps, which he has studied extensively since and has written books on the subject. He has one in the works on the history of the Civilian Conservation Corps in this part of the state. And I understand you've done quite a study of the Corps up at Devil's Lake State Park, where there is, as you may know if you've been up there, a monument to the CCC, one of several places around the country. We thought of getting one here, perhaps in Evansville, to go along with the bridge until we saw the price tag, and then decided that a state historical marker would be just fine for Evansville. So, Bob, more on the CCC in Rock County.
Yeah, thank you. I know it's a little a little tight in here. That's okay. I'll just say a few brief things, and then if you guys have any questions, we can talk about it that way too. So that might be the easiest and best way to do this. But I want to thank you for your interest in history and the Civilian Conservation Corps. It's been a lot of fun for me researching the Civilian Conservation Corps. As John mentioned, I started out, I was an interpretive ranger historian for the Forest Service down in Arizona, and that kind of got me interested in the CCC. So I kind of, the more I got into it, the more interesting it was to talk to people and visit with people that were in the CCC. And then when I came to Wisconsin, I wasn't 100% sure that there was a lot of CCC stuff going on, because I was a forest guy and pine tree guy, and you know, cornfields what I thought of in Wisconsin, so that was their forest. So I wasn't quite sure about all that, but I got to digging around, and I did find out a lot of things about the CCC in Wisconsin, some amazing things. Some of which, a lot of which, right here in Rock County. That's one of the reasons why I got interested. But as John mentioned, you know, I did kind of focus, at least initially, on Devil's Lake, its most popular lake in Wisconsin and even in the Midwest, to kind of focus on what the CCC did there, and that kind of led me to my first book. So my first example of shameless exhibitionism will come. I didn't bring the book with me because I'm moving now, but I do have the cards, and it's about the CCC in Devil's Lake. But I wish I had the books with me, but again, I'm in the process of moving and didn't happen to bring any with me, so I thought I'd mention that. But after I got looking at the CCC at Devil's Lake, I kind of got, just to sit down and kind of flipping through a couple of things, and I did notice a couple of amazing things about Rock County and the Civilian Conservation Corps that kind of pushed me forward. Some of the things we've already mentioned here. One of which is the work that the CCC did here was in soil conservation, which even for Wisconsin is somewhat rare. Most of the CCC work that was done up in the North Woods, and with a lot of tree planting and what you and I would think of more of outdoorsy type stuff. And I wasn't sure that the CCC was very active here in southern Wisconsin. And they weren't actually until I got to digging around a little bit farther and found out that they had about 20 soil conservation camps in the state, most of them in the western part of the state. And I got to looking around and kind of figuring out where everything was, and I found that Rock County, one thing unique about Rock County is it's the most eastern of the CCC camps. And one of the reasons they wanted to do soil erosion was because of the nature of the geography, of course, the rolling hills and beautiful countryside in Wisconsin. And you know, if you live in Wisconsin long enough, you know a lot of the southwestern part of the state, over there, Grant County and Crawford County, is really rolling, and they kind of focused on that. And they said, well, we'll spread out a little bit and see if it works elsewhere. And I don't want to say by accident, but it was kind of an interesting set of circumstances. A lot of it's still unknown. For some reason, they picked Rock County to be in on this, even though it was not the extreme erosion, extreme rolling countryside that exists over in Grant County and Crawford County and that part of the state. So that kind of interests me that the CCC would be here in Rock County. And of course, the second thing was the fact that I'd always been used to in all of my research about the CCC being for young guys, young kids, 17 to 24. That was the original enlistment plan. And I knew about veterans units, but I didn't. You know, there are only about 20,000 of those guys, and they're kind of scattered all over. And they weren't really. I didn't really have a cause to really investigate them too much until I find out that they were here in Rock County. And I thought, wow, Rock County being farther east, how did this veterans unit get here? And what were they like, and kind of, how different were they from the other guys? And that kind of got me focused and propelled a little bit. And the only disappointing thing about my whole research was, because these folks were veterans of the Great War, of World War I, they're all gone now. And you couldn't find anybody to talk to, whereas in some of my other research, so I could find some of these old timers and talk to them. That was really, really fun to get their experience. But this way I had to rely on family members, and that was kind of an interesting challenge too. It's still a challenge, really, as I kind of put this together. But the more I dug into it, the more I put together, and hopefully I put together kind of a little manuscript, a little history of the CCC and the remarkable things they did here. One thing I noticed, one last thing, and I'll kind of wrap this up, is I noticed about the CCC work here. I was fortunate enough to get a list of all the CCC work that was done here in Rock County by these veterans. And they were only here 1 year. It was become an amazing, amazing thing. They were here for 1 summer. And I got a list of all the work they've done: soil conservation, dams, and tree planting, and the whole thing. And I kind of focused on the soil conservation dams that they built. And when I say soil conservation dams, I'm not talking about Hoover Dam or anything like that. They nothing like that. But little dams that they built. And I got to thinking, I wonder if any of those are still around, or whether you can see them, or if there's anything interesting about them. And I got to looking, and over the course of a couple of years, about 1.5 years of looking, I amazingly found all of them. Every single soil conservation project work that they did in this county is still there. And I've done a lot of research up in Dane County and Greene County, a little bit over in Grant County and Devil's Lake. A lot of that stuff is gone. Farmers plow fields and stuff, and things get changed and so on. And I found all of these dam sites in various conditions. And that was kind of an amazing thing that, again, kind of focused me, and thought, this is something that we should kind of collect and look at. And it is very unique to Dane County. It was a one-shot thing. The Civilian Conservation Corps that first year, they thought it was going to be a one-shot thing. Boom, it was over, and everybody goes home. And it was only later that they said, well, let's continue on and on. So when they put it here in Dane County, they said, hey, we're done after this year, after 1933. And it turns out they said, well, let's get an extension. And by that time, they thought, well, we might move these guys. And they got moved on to Illinois. Then after that, they got moved again to Bloomington over here in the western part of the state. And by the way, the Canton newspaper still lament not being in Evansville. They said, we wish we could have got back to Evansville. And then they went way up north, up in Phelps and Northwood territory up there. And unfortunately, they never did get back here to Evansville. But it's an amazing story of that group of guys. And I'll finish up with one last thing. I brought a photograph that's back there. If someone mind grabbing it for me. While she's doing that, I might say that in the course of my research, I also like to look at the town people, because again, this is the 30s, the Depression. There's a lot of people on the move and jobless people and so on. And it often happened that if the government said, hey, the CCC boys are going to come to your town, we're going to send 200 17 and 18 and 19-year-old kids to live in your town. There's a few people, a few town leaders who said, I don't know about this, whether that's a great idea or not. They're going to be roaming down the streets. And I don't know whether that's more daunting, or whether to say we're going to have 240-year-old guys who are here, who are camped out, World War I, grizzled, tough veterans, who are going to be in your town working on stuff. And that's kind of the way it was in Evansville. And what I wanted to show you was the only known photograph I can find. And John, I hope you can prove me wrong, but this is the only known, if you grab one end of this, this is the only known photograph I could find at the camp at Evansville. And you can see that you can see these are old guys, these are adult folks, and they're not young men by any means. They left their families, left their wife and kids to come out here. You can obviously see in Evansville it was a tent camp. They did use a couple of the structures over there at the fairgrounds, where the fairgrounds used to be, a couple of the structures for a mess hall. But the guys lived in tents, usually 6 to 8 in a tent. And because it was so early in the program, this is 1933, the program got instituted in April, and they arrived here in July. And a lot of them at that time, as you can see here, did not have a uniform or regular, they just wore whatever their work clothes were there. Now later on, as the CCC went along, they ended up issuing old World War I uniforms, and then they had, back in 37, by the time that got going, they had their own uniforms for the CCC themselves, rather pretty kind of forest green uniforms. But to start out with, this was it. This was the CCC, and you're looking at these guys coming into your town wondering whether it's a great idea for them to be here. But all the evidence I found, the CC guys here were very respectful of the townspeople. They got along very well. They had carnivals together. They had special events together. They showed open houses around camp and stuff, so it worked out very well. But this is the only photo I've been able to find, so I'm going to keep looking, but I just thought this would give you a little bit of an idea of the kind of people who were camping out here 80 years ago. So with that, I'll kind of conclude and just leave a little bit of time here. If there's something you'd like to ask about or something special that you would like to know or wondered about or cared about, you can take a couple minutes and do that.